Our planet is absolutely teeming with life. I mean, from the tiniest microbe to the biggest blue whale, it's just this incredible, beautiful, and, well, chaotic mix. So the big question is, how do we even start to make sense of it all? That's exactly what we're going to dive into. I mean, really think about it. Millions of different species. It's a fundamental challenge for biologists. It'd be like trying to organize a library with millions of books, but with no labels, no sections, no filing system whatsoever. It would just be a mess. So today, we're going to explore biology's version of the Dewey Decimal System, the amazing framework that brings order to the entire natural world. All right, so before we can even begin to sort living things, we have to agree on what living actually means. It sounds really simple, right? But getting this definition right is absolutely crucial. And so, biologists have come up with a set of 7 characteristics that altogether define what it means to be alive. So, for something to get into the alive club, it's got to check off all 7 boxes. It has to be able to move, even if that's just stuff moving around inside it. It needs to perform respiration, which isn't just breathing, but the whole chemical process of getting energy from food. It needs sensitivity to what's going on around it, the ability to grow, to reproduce and make more of itself, to get rid of waste through excretion, and, of course, it needs nutrition to power the whole operation. That's a lot to remember, isn't it? But don't worry, there's a fantastic little mnemonic to help you out. MRS-GREN. Yep, just remember that name. Each letter stands for one of those life processes we just talked about: movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. MRS-GREN. It's such a simple and powerful tool for sorting the living from the non-living. Okay, so once we've established that something is alive using Mrs. Grin, the real fun begins, figuring out where it belongs. And for that, we have to thank an 18th century Swedish naturalist named Carl Linnaeus. This guy was a total organizational genius who looked at the wild chaos of nature and thought, you know what? This needs a proper filing system. The absolute bedrock of his whole system is the idea of a species. And this definition is super important. It's not just about 2 things looking similar. It's about whether they can reproduce and create offspring that can also reproduce. Think about it. A horse and a donkey can have a baby, a mule, but mules can't have their own babies. They're sterile. And that's how we know horses and donkeys are 2 different species. So what he built is this brilliant hierarchy, kind of like a set of Russian nesting dolls. You start with the biggest, most general box, which is the kingdom, and then you get more and more specific with each level: phylum, class, order, family, genus, all the way down to a single species. So for us humans, we're in the Animalia kingdom, but our very specific, unique species name is Homo sapiens. And how in the world are you supposed to remember that order? Well, we've got another great mnemonic for you. Just remember this silly sentence. King Philip came over for grand spaghetti. That's kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Say it a couple of times. King Philip came over for grand spaghetti. See? It's a pretty unforgettable way to keep all those levels straight. Linnaeus's system was an absolute game changer, and we still use its basic structure today. But modern technology has given us a tool that he could have only dreamed of. It's a way to look past what something looks like and instead read the actual blueprint of life itself. You see, back in the day, classification was all about what you could see with your own eyes. Scientists relied on morphology, an organism's shape and form, and anatomy, its internal structures. Does it have a backbone? Does it have fur or feathers or scales? These were the kinds of questions that decided where something fit on the tree of life. But today? Today, we can actually read the genetic code, the DNA, of any living thing. And this is really the gold standard. The more similar the DNA sequences between 2 creatures, the more closely related they are. It's the ultimate family tree, written in a 4-letter code. And what's so cool is that it has confirmed a lot of what scientists already figured out, but it's also thrown up some huge surprises, revealing family connections we never would have guessed just by looking. So now that we have all these amazing tools, let's do a quick flyby tour of the highest level of classification, the 5 major kingdoms. You can think of these as the 5 massive continents on the map of life. First up, we've got 2 kingdoms of mostly single-celled organisms. On one hand, you have the prokaryotes, like bacteria. They are super simple. Their cells are like a 1-room apartment. All their genetic material is just floating around inside. Then you have the protoctists, like an amoeba. Their cells are a bit more sophisticated, with a proper nucleus that acts like a control room, keeping all the DNA organized and safe. Next up are two kingdoms you'll definitely recognize, but they get their food in totally different ways. You've got fungi, like mushrooms and molds. They are nature's great recyclers, absorbing all their nutrients from whatever they're growing on. And then you have plants, the amazing producers of our world, who make their own food from pure sunlight using photosynthesis. And last but not least, there's our home kingdom, the animals. We are all multicellular, we have to eat other organisms to get our energy, and our cells have a special feature. They don't have a rigid cell wall, which is what gives us all our wonderful flexibility and the ability to move around. So now that we've had a peek at all 5 kingdoms, let's zoom in on our own, the animal kingdom, to really see how these layers of classification work in a group we're all pretty familiar with. Okay, so a huge first split within the animal kingdom is between those with a backbone, the vertebrates, and those without. Within the vertebrates, we get 5 major classes. You've got your fish with gills and scales, amphibians who live that double life in water and on land, reptiles with their dry, scaly skin, birds with feathers built for flight, and of course mammals, like us, who have hair or fur and feed milk to our young. But vertebrates are actually just a small piece of the animal puzzle. The arthropods, invertebrates with a hard exoskeleton and jointed legs, are an absolutely massive group. And the system works just as well for them, splitting them into classes like the 6-legged insects, the 8-legged arachnids like spiders, and crustaceans like crabs and lobsters. It's all about finding those key shared features to create order. So we've built this really neat, orderly system for life. But nature always has a few curveballs to throw at us. And there's one thing that just doesn't fit anywhere in our classification of life. And that's the virus. I mean, just look at how simple it is. A virus isn't even a cell. It's nothing more than a little piece of genetic information, DNA or RNA, wrapped up in a shell made of protein. That's it. No cellular machinery, no metabolism, none of the stuff that makes a living cell work. So let's go back to our trusty MRSG checklist. Can a virus reproduce by itself? Nope, it has to hijack a living cell to do its dirty work. Does it do respiration or excrete waste? No. Does it grow? Not at all. It fails pretty much every single test for being alive. And this right here is why you won't find viruses in any of the 5 kingdoms of life. Which leaves us with this really fascinating question. Viruses have a huge impact on life, and they can evolve. But they seem to exist in this weird, ghostly space between living biology and non-living chemistry. They're the ultimate rule breakers, reminding us that no matter how organized our systems get, nature will always have a few mysteries left for us to think about. So what do you think? If they're not alive, what are they?